Hi everybody, and welcome back to This Week in Magic Online Finance. I'm your host, Chaz Andres, and as always, let's get started with the news. Now, I've got two big topics to discuss today. The first is that our 7-day window for drafting Vintage Masters is almost over, and predictably, the prices for Vintage staples have tanked. So if you've been waiting to invest in Vintage Masters cards, if you've been holding out for a while for the market low, this is it. Don't wait, get in now. Now I'm going to take a much more in-depth look into Vintage next week. In fact, it's the main topic for the video. But for now, let me just say that Vintage Masters has really everything you need. It's got Force of Will, it has the Power 9, it has the dual lands, and those are kind of the financial pillars of the format. So if you've been holding off on buying those for a while, take a look at the price charts on MTG Goldfish, and definitely think about buying in. Most of those cards are at seasonal lows, if not historic lows. Let's move on to our next big piece of news, which is that Channel Fireball is actually going to be bringing Pauper to Paper Grand Prix in January. And this is big news because it's the first time that a predominantly Magic Online format is being introduced into the world of Paper Magic. And I expect that because of that, the price for online Pauper cards is actually going to go up, because people are going to be practicing online for paper events, or they're going to discover the format at a Grand Prix, dial up Magic Online, and get into it there. So regardless of what happens, I think now is a really good time to start buying Pauper staples. Especially if you've been thinking about getting into the format, definitely don't wait a month. Do it now. It was another really quiet week in Standard, with Botanical Sanctum gaining the most ground, just a ticket from 8 up to about 9. And this is normal market fluctuation. Botanical Sanctum sees play in really all of the competitive energy decks right now, which means it's been fluctuating between 7 tickets and about 13 for a couple of months. I don't expect it to leave this range anytime soon. Moving down on the gainers list a bit, the most exciting card I can find is Greenbelt Rampager, which jumped about a third of a ticket from 1 to 1.3. And that's not really exciting, but it was a fifth of a ticket back in November, and the reason it's gone up is because it does see some play in Sultai Pummeler. Now, I don't think Greenbelt Rampager has what it takes to be a 10-ticket rare, really at any point, but it's a reasonable penny stock. So I'm going to probably throw a couple into my next few transactions and hold on to them for a few weeks just in case. Now, it was a more active week in Modern, with 3 different cards gaining about 4 tickets apiece, and those were the big gainers. Through the Breach gained 4 tickets, jumping from 12 up to 16, and both Engineered Explosives and Karn Liberated gained about 4 tickets, each jumping from 37 out to about 41. Now, a lot of this is the result of the fact that big mana and Breach kind of decks are big game in Modern. They've been putting up good results online and Grand Prix lately. So through the Breach, Karn Liberated, stuff like that is doing pretty well. Engineered Explosives, well, that card hasn't been reprinted in a long time, and it's been trending upward since October. I am a little scared to buy in because I think it might be reprinted in Masters 25, but that price chart still keeps pointing up, so I'm not really sure where it's going to stop. Moving on to our biggest losers, where in Standard it's, you guessed it, Chandra Torch of Defiance and the Scarab God again. Chandra dropped 3 tickets from 31 down to 28, the Scarab God dropped 3 tickets from 27 down to 24. And is there an end in sight finally? I kinda wanna say yes. If you look at those price charts, especially the Scarab God, you'll notice that they've flattened out, and I really do think that at this point, they've hit their seasonal lows. Now, who's to say what's going to happen in Standard in the new year? Who's to say what Rivals of Ixalan is going to bring? But if I was a gambling man, and I suppose I kind of am, I'm going to say that both of these cards are going to go up from here. At the very least, if you've been holding out on buying them for the past couple of months, waiting for the seasonal lull, this is the time, I hope. Now, over in Modern, the biggest loser of the week was Mox Opal, which dropped about 10 tickets from 68 all the way down to 58, and that is a pretty serious loss. But I really do think this is just some market correction, because it was pretty close to this 58 ticket mark back in late November before a last minute rally over the past couple of weeks. The fundamentals all favor Mox Opal as well. It hasn't been reprinted in a while, and it's a mythic 4 of in both Affinity and the Ascendant Lantern control deck, so demand is real. And in fact, I've started to see the market rebound a bit since this 10 ticket drop. So even though it seems kind of paradoxical, it feels still a little bit like buying high. If you need opals for January or February, now's going to be your best time to buy in. Now, this week's sneak is a sneaky blue counterspell from Nemesis. It's Daze. which is up to 14 tickets after being 7 tickets back in October. And Days sees a lot of play in Legacy decks, Delver decks especially. It's been as high as 17 or 18 tickets this year, but I think it's going to break 20 this time around. Why? Well, remember what I said back at the beginning of the show about Pauper? Yeah, Days is a staple in that format, and that demand is about to start rising, so get your Dazes if you can. Now let's end the week again by taking another look at the MTGO Traders sales data over the past 7 days. My sponsors at MTGO Traders have given me access to this information, and it's a really good way to see what's selling well on Magic Online. Now I usually like to start by talking about the top 5 cards on the overall sales list, but this week it's the same multi-format commons and uncommons that have been at the top of this list for the past couple of weeks. So instead I thought I'd take a look at a couple of interesting lands further down the list. Now the cards in question are Glacial Fortress and Drowned Catacomb, and they came in 12th place and 14th place respectively, which doesn't seem like much until you remember that these are rares and they're only worth about a ticket a piece on Magic Online, which is crazy for cards that see this much play. I know they've been reprinted a billion times, but come on, a ticket each? The best Kaladesh lands are 8 to 10 tickets right now, and these are gonna be at least 3 or 4 tickets in the spring, right? It's can't miss money right now. Now moving on to the list that measures the overall value of the cards sold versus the number of cards sold, you can find Liliana of the Veil and Mox Opal in that top 4. And this is despite the fact that both cards lost value this week. And what that tells me is that the cards dropped in price, people took note, and then they started buying back in. So both of these cards are prime candidates for a rebound over the next couple of weeks. Also joining that top 4, Scalding Tarn, which makes me think it's probably time to start picking those up too. Now the card has gained quite a bit of value since its reprint in Modern Masters 2017, but because it was reprinted this year, I'm not sure it's on the short list to be in Masters 25. And because of that, there's still a lot more ground it can gain. Moving on to basic lands, where to the surprise of probably most of you, Forest finally dethroned Swamp this week as the most popular basic land. And Island moved down to the least popular basic land. Does this mean you should sell all your blue cards? I don't think so. This is mostly arbitrary, but it's kind of fun to track anyway. That's all I got for you this week. Don't forget to join me next week. I will be here, even though it's the holidays, with a pre-recorded show all about Magic Online Vintage. You definitely don't want to miss it. And in the meantime, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out some of MTGO Traders' other awesome content.